Take a girl and a guy, and they fall madly in love and form a family. Sprinkle in some counseling degrees and a doctorate, a dream of transforming relationships as we know it. And 20 years later, we give you power couple Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. And this is their podcast, Couples Synergy.
Welcome back to another episode of Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean. Hi, I am Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean. And this is our podcast about love, marriage, and relationships.
Please check us out online at couplesynergy.com or on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Couple Synergy. And please subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, or send us any suggestions on topics you'd like to hear more about. And now on to Couple Synergy, an in-depth look at love, marriage, and relationships, where we bring you our experience helping thousands of couples transform their relationships for over 25 years.
You know, everyone says you should work on your relationship, but nobody teaches us how. So we've created this podcast to teach people what they can do to create the relationship they've always dreamed of
with the partner they fell in love with. On today's episode, we are celebrating dads. It's Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, daddies.
Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. And, we did a celebration for Mother's Day. And so we thought it'd be very appropriate to celebrate fathers as well.
Yeah. So you get to be in the hot seat now.
I am going to be on the hot seat.
And there'll be a few treats from your dad.
Yeah. That'll be something.
And a friend of yours from high school, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. My microphone's a little weird right here. Okay, go ahead.
You know, I think about you becoming a dad.
Mm-hmm.
And you became a dad in several ways.
Yes. Yes.
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
What was it like when you first met me or seriously started dating me and I had a child?
Well, in the beginning, there was a big concern, obviously, because, I was 24 at the time, and you had an 8-year-old at the time, 9. And so, to be serious in a relationship like that, it was not just, a couple relationship, but you really have to now take into consideration, the kid, and that this is a serious, connection that's being made. And, you can't really look at the relationship from a very casual perspective. So that was a really difficult thing for me to wrestle and to figure out, on my own, to be like, well, is this something that I'm willing to embark on? Because if I wasn't willing to go into this, seriously, that it's not just casual dating, but seriously, we are going to be, potentially moving forward as a family, then I wasn't going to, I wasn't going to go and start on the relationship.
And you had never been a father before.
No.
And you were stepping into a full-time role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Totally. Full-time role.
Like you're the guy dropping him off at school.
Yep. I remember that.
What was that like for you?
It was, it felt good to be able to be that person to be there for him. One of the things that was important to me was making sure that he could count on me, that if I said I was going to do something, then I was going to do that, and that I wasn't going to give him any empty promises at all. So I wanted, him to know that I was going to be dependable.
Why was that important to you?
Well, I saw that his biological father was not dependable at all. And, he was let down a lot by him. He'd say he'd show up and he doesn't show up, or shows up late, or, just you really didn't know what to count on. So I didn't want to be another person, another guy in his life that was going to do the same thing.
If we talk about fatherhood in general and the people we've worked with who's has that father wound,
Mhm.
right? I think that's a big part of it, the not showing up,
For sure.
the waiting, the anticipation, the letdown, the continuous opening of your heart to someone who is the adult and totally disregards that is a very painful wound. So I don't know how you knew that so young, and not having been a father, but you nailed it. I think that is such an important thing. No matter what happens, being able to count on someone in this world, I think it's really big.
Well, somewhere inherently I knew that that was really important, to role model. So much so that, when I went to go pick out the engagement ring, I brought him with because I wanted him to be part of that process, right? And also in our honeymoon, we brought him along as well. I didn't want him to think that now he's being pushed aside, especially since, you being a single mom, he was, very much part of your life. And so for me to step into the picture, it would create this sense of competition, for your attention
And abandonment.
and rejection. And, I didn't inherently somewhere inside, I knew that I didn't want to cause that or be a part of that.
Let's talk about when you found out I was pregnant.
Yeah, that was quite a shocker. I mean, I think that you had taken a test
Mm-hmm.
and it was negative. And so then you were going to take another one. And I thought it was just going to be negative again. Right. And then you said it was positive. And I was like, I don't think I said anything. I don't know if it was like this shock of reality, hitting me. That's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a little baby, and like everything that goes along with that, and we had just moved into our house, and I think I just started a new job. I think.
Probably.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So things
we were doing the paper routes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In addition to working
Yeah.
in, I don't know if I was still working at the hospital or I was working in community health at that point.
Yeah.
So, we're newlyweds. So it was just kind of a boom. Now we are dealing with added stress and change in our life. So it was, it's kind of a blur.
Yeah, I was just counting out. We got engaged 7 months after we started dating, which I think seems pretty quick in this day and age. But I personally felt like you're doing the job.
Yeah.
And we were a family, and I wanted you to have the title. I wanted you to have the full...
and not just be a fiance.
Right. Or a boyfriend or something like that. Because... Right. And with a kid, you are an instant family, and you do, that child will also deal with the process of it falling apart too, which would be painful for them. And so that was important to me, because I know when we got engaged, we were like going to wait like another year. And then we got married a couple months after we got engaged. We got engaged in September. We got married in February.
And then February, right.
And we found out we were pregnant in December, right before the wedding.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about the day.
Well, I just wanted to say that, we originally were going to get married a year after we got engaged, but then we said like, what, why?
Right.
Why are we going to wait a year?
Yeah.
When is it just because that's what everybody does? It's like the standard. You get engaged and you wait a year, and then and we were just kind of like, there's no point in waiting. So let's do that. Let's get married right away. Yeah, because we were already doing the job as a family.
Yeah.
it's not like we needed that transition period, you know. So
Let's talk about the day that I went into labor. What was it like for you?
I know I was about to walk out the door for work.
Yeah.
I was going to start a morning shift, and so yeah, I was at the hospital at that time. I was working at the hospital.
Yeah.
So, and then you came into the kitchen. You're like, my water broke, and I was like, I picked up the phone. I called the hospital. I was like, it's go time. I gotta go. You gotta cover my shift. I gotta go. I was like kind of frantic.
You
I
were.
guess. Yeah. And then, go back and then drive into the hospital. And I mean, you were fine because it wasn't
in labor yet.
yeah. So, and then, being at the hospital, it was kind of like, it was slow going.
Nothing was happening.
Yeah.
So that was like 6:30 in the morning. We probably got to the hospital around 10 because we had to drop Alec off.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And get
I was
processed
driving in
and
that
stuff.
state. In that state of mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, you were driving from Arlington Heights to Park Ridge.
Evanston.
It wasn't, well, it was Skokie.
Skokie.
It was Skokie.
Yeah.
So that was like a, 45-minute drive or something like that, with the stop. Anyway.
Surprised you could drive. You were so nervous.
Well, I guess it was a good thing that, things did not progress until later that afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, it took some time for me to just kind of calm down and really just start to let it settle in that today was the day. And then when he was born, rather violently, I should say,
Yeah.
it was so surreal, having him kind of sleep on my chest, and it was just to say like, oh, I'm a dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's something huge.
And we didn't find out the gender, we waited.
No.
Yep.
Right. So we didn't know if, he was going to be a boy or girl coming out, and surprise, surprise, he was a boy. And it's been a pleasure being a dad and a stepdad.
What are some of your favorite memories of being a dad and a stepdad?
So, for the first 6 months, the hospital that I was working at was changing in ownership. And so I left that job. And so that first 6 months that he was born, I stayed home with him.
Yeah, because I went back to work after like 2 weeks.
Yeah. And there were some times I remember, him being in the back seat, and this is a little bit older. So he was facing forward and not backward. Okay. But we would go on drives, and we would go places and run errands and things. And we would, I'd crank up the music, and we'd be singing, or I'd be singing, and, he'd be having a great time. He's laughing and things like that. So that was a lot of fun. With Alec, taking him to hockey, that was something that, I did a lot of, taking him to hockey and connecting
And you had
with him
played
on
hockey.
that. And I played hockey. And so, that was when we did travel and taking him to different travel, games and things like that. I think there were times that you weren't able to make it for some reason, right? Maybe you
Probably
were
working or something.
Yeah. And, those times of just being with the boys separately or even together with them, those are some fun memories. And they might have been just like traveling for some type of sport or traveling to do some type of like errand, but it was still meaningful. It was still fun to be, together.
I would also count that you have 2 more people that you have fathered.
Okay.
So Angela, our daughter-in-law, who lived with us for a while at a fairly young age. What's your feeling about that, of fathering someone that isn't in that traditional category?
Well, I remember taking Angie out to dinner, and just to kind of to bond, and I said, Angie, I don't know how to be a dad to a girl. So, I've had boys and have been raising them, but I don't know how to do this. So just want to let you know that I might joke around with you, or, for a while I would like jump out, into the hallway and scare her.
You did scare her a lot.
But just because that's the stuff you do with boys, and I didn't really.
No, you only did it to Angie. That was a very rich part of our lives, I think, to parent her. I mean, she was an adult, but at the same time,
Mhm.
we were able to nurture her and help her, get going in the world, which was, daughters are nice. There's a different bond that, the boys kind of take more, she gives more,
Yeah.
which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And then Eric, my nephew,
Your nephew.
came and lived with us for a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, it and still is, it's a great relationship, having with your nephew, and it's a much stronger relationship with him than I have with any of your other nephews.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's just a great kid. I say kid, but he's an adult now, but it was really great to see him kind of, grow up and kind of take on this responsibility of being an adult, and, for him to kind of connect with us in that kind of son way, it was really an awesome experience. Yeah.
And now that we're empty nesters, I think there's just a lot of pride to watch them do what they're doing in the world.
Yeah. They have taken flight.
Which, now you're at a whole nother level, Grandpa.
Now yeah.
How is that, becoming a grandpa?
I don't really know yet.
Yeah, a baba.
Yeah, I don't really know yet. It's kind of it's still kind of new. So I don't really know what role to be and how to be, and it doesn't help that we are, there's a distance, between where we're at in Colorado and them in DC. It's just, it's tough. If we were seeing them more frequently, then I think maybe I'd be able to figure that role out a lot quicker. I don't know.
Well, I think that she will, as she grows up,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll have her a lot longer as a person,
Yeah.
a baby.
Yeah.
It's hard to bond with a baby
Right.
through phone and video chat, although that's what we're about to do right now. Is we're going to do some video chat with our kids, and then we are going to interview some other people, which you guys will hear in a second. For us, it'll be a couple hours. But happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. And I think the important thing about a father in a child's life is the shaping of their self-esteem. And if you're a dad, do not underestimate the influence you're having on someone. It might not always seem that way, because especially if the mom's doing a lot of the parenting of raising them, it is so important. My dad's been gone for 23 years already.
Wow.
It's a long time.
That's a long time.
Yep. And there's always that little thought of him here and there.
Yep.
Throughout all that time, it never stops. And, dads have a great influence on their children. either a great wound or a great help. Either way, very, very important. And, if you're disconnected from your kids, do your best to get over it. They need you, no matter how old they are. And thanks for being the father of my children.
It was a pleasure. It still is. And so now you're going to hear from
Chris.
All right. Hey, Chris. Long
guys.
time no see.
Yeah, definitely. Miss you guys.
Yeah. Miss you guys too.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on our podcast today. A special episode about Father's Day.
And how do you guys know each other?
We went to high school together.
Yeah.
So you guys did the dad experience kind of at the same time, parallel.
Kind of.
Kind
yeah.
of. Yeah.
Hey, when did you become a dad?
2003.
2003.
Was born in 2003.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we had Dean in 98.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how you found out you were going to be a dad?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was definitely a little bit of a surprise. Susan and I had been married not even a year really, and we were just kind of living downtown doing our thing. I was working in the Loop, and she was finishing up her second year of medical school, and it was probably June, May or June, or maybe even July of that summer of 2002, and we were, because of the weather's nice, it's the summer in Chicago, we take nightly walks, and just one particular night we're going for a walk around our condo, and she kind of slows down and says, hey, I'm pregnant. And a little bit of a shock, because we weren't necessarily trying per se, because obviously, again, she was kind of focused on getting through medical school, and I was just starting off in my career. So little bit of a shock, but all in all, a good surprise. It took a little while for it to kind of sink in, but once it sank in, it was an amazing feeling. The excitement. There was some concern about the unknown. How's it going to work? What's going to happen? What's going to happen with her future career? How's that going to impact her? How can I help her out in that regard, and what that's going to look like for us. But we managed, obviously, and day by day we took it, and now we're in theory on the tail end of this child rearing journey, so to speak, with our younger son being in high school, and our daughter being now in college. There's quote unquote that light at the end of the tunnel, I guess is one way to put it. But it's been definitely fun.
What was the day she was born? What was that like for you?
It was again more shock, because now it's, and again, we were pretty young at the time, in our mid-20s, and just wow, she's here, and very exciting. I think for every parent, it just kind of, your child just kind of immediately wraps you around their hand or their finger, and you're just brought in, right? This amazing little being is now just the center of your universe, and you wouldn't have it any other way. So it's it's an amazing feeling. It's hard to explain to those who aren't parents, but for those who are, you can kind of look each other and kind of nod, and they understand what you're thinking and feeling, and you understand how they're thinking and feeling. There's nothing like it.
When I work with men, a lot of times I have them define what it means to be a good father, a good husband, a good man in this world. Was there anything that was important to you that you wanted to impart upon your kids growing up?
you want to impart a lot of different things. You hope that you impart, your faith, your beliefs, um, your morals, your value system. Um, you want to, in theory, kind of steer them away from the mistakes that you make, or possibly make better choices, hopefully. Um, and at the end of the day, I think most parents just want to make sure that their children know that they're there to love them and support them no matter what. That they should, go off and do their thing at whatever age it may be, and recognize that home with their parents is a safe place to be, and they can always come back and find respite, find advice, and find the rest and the strength that they need to go back out the next day and do what they have to do.
Was it different in raising a girl versus a boy? Because we only have boys. We didn't have that dual experience.
Yeah, it's definitely different. It's two different challenges, certainly. And especially being a dad, I guess, and raising a daughter. I think from a baseline perspective, you approach it, from a very similar standpoint, but recognizing that, the daughter is going to go through things that are different than the son, and the son's going to go through different things than the daughter, and so trying to tailor, their upbringing and raising to encounter and challenge those challenges and make sure that they're well equipped for those things. So yeah, it's definitely very different.
What was the most rewarding experience that you've had as a dad, and the most challenging?
Rewarding. I don't know if I could say that there's been a most rewarding thing per se. Every day to me is, a joy with my children. And, it's obviously different with my daughter who, is away at school, or, she was away, at a summer internship right now. So I don't get to see her as much as I could. But, when I talk to her and see how much she continues to grow and learn and develop and continue to become this amazing person in the world, that's any parent's joy. And same for my son, obviously in a different realm, and he's at home, and even seeing him on a daily basis, but watching him grow and learn and again develop, all those same things. Those, it's a reward that kind of keeps on giving, really. I recognize that at some point in time, I won't be able to see them every single day, or I won't be able to talk to them every single day. But, I know that, as they move off into the world, maybe even raise their own families and things like that, I'll be rewarded with, whatever happens in the future with their lives, and watching them navigate and become the people that they're meant to become.
How often do you talk to your daughter?
These days it's a few times a week. And she's actually not that far. She's in downtown Chicago for her internship. And so, which is ironic, because when she goes off to school she's outside of Boston during the school year, we probably talk to her almost every day. Maybe 4 or 5, 6 times a week, give or take. So
that's always an interesting thing to me, that you know, there's no rule of how often you call back
Yeah.
your parents or your parents call you. And we know people who talk multiple times a day,
Hmm.
and then people that feel obligated to talk every day, or some people do once a week or once every other week. This is kind of interesting. And when you
Yeah.
talk to people, they're like, no, this is how you do it. Like, well, this is just made up. As I was just curious.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, I mean, when she first went off to college, I mean, and again, obviously technology makes it so different than when we were in school. My parents were lucky if they got a phone call a semester.
Right.
You know,
But
you know,
that's like boys are like that. They don't
right.
call
Well,
back.
yeah, that's true too. That's
So
true
you
too.
guys were your son's age when you guys were hanging out.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about
I mean,
that?
yeah, because Ray was driving and I wasn't. Yeah. Yeah, it's you know, we talk quite a bit, again, FaceTime and even, you know, texting. It makes it so much easier just to keep in touch and, hey, how are things going, and you know what's going on in your world. Did you eat today? You know, did you go to classes? You know, what's going on?
Yeah, that's been helpful for us. We have a group text where, we share pictures and
Yeah.
stuff that keeps you know what's going on in their life, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It does make it much easier to remain connected and remain a part of life. So I'm definitely grateful for technology to allow us to have that access and opportunity. And again, when I don't hear from her for a few days, it's fine. You know, I know that she's busy. You know, I would like to, you know, see the occasional text, or I'll text her, you know, and just say, hey, how you doing? Just checking in, just making sure you're okay. Um, you know, just to make sure that she is okay. So,
What advice would you give new fathers today?
yeah, that's um, there's no one right way to raise your child. Um, you know, and I think you know, eventually people will figure it out. Um, and you know, and it's okay to reach out and ask questions and lean on, you know, those who have, you know, gone before you and things like that. But you know, not get too hung up on, am I doing it right? You know, don't create that. I think that's a self-created anxiety that all parents put upon themselves. And you know, as long as you know, the child is, you know, loved and you know, just adored, I don't think there's really any wrong thing that you can do, per se.
What's a favorite memory that you have with each of your kids?
Oh, um, there's so many. For my son, I mean, there's plenty of memories that come along. I love watching them together, and you know, ever since they were little, they're 5 years apart, and so there is that age gap, and in some regards, they kind of, you know, they kind of take care of each other, you know, so to speak, especially now that they're a little bit older. You know, and I like that. And we were traveling in France last summer, for a family trip, and I remember we were just walking through the streets of, I think, Bordeaux, and the kids were walking ahead of Susan and myself, and you know, even at the age of, at the time they were 19 and 14, you know, they're holding hands just walking down the street, and I like that. Right? I like the fact that they can, they're there together for each other, and you know, in some regard, it makes you feel better because at least you know that, you know, the two of them can navigate this world together, and they have each other to lean on. You know, it's simple. It's, you know, maybe even slightly corny, but you know,
It's real.
yeah, it's real. It really is. And that was important to us.
Well, Chris, we want to thank you so much for being on the podcast today and offering your insights on being a dad.
No, absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
It's good to see you.
It's good to
Good
see
to see you as well. Yeah. Have a good one.
Well, Calvin, thanks for being on our special episode podcast about Father's Day.
Great.
Thank you.
Happy to be here. Happy Father's Day to all of you guys out there.
And happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you.
Hey, so, wanted to ask you, first off, how did you find out that you were going to be a dad? And when was that? Like, what year was that?
So it was around 2007 in the fall. And at the time we were trying to have children. And we were doing we were unsuccessful for a little bit. And so we started doing the whole, monitoring cycles and whatnot. And sooner or later we, got pregnant, and that was that. Yeah, it was kind of like a planned thing, but it was kind of a little bit of a struggle to actually conceive. So that was in 2008. That was my daughter, Kira. She's now 14, almost 15. And then Kira, same thing, basically. I'm sorry, Cameron, same thing. She's 12 going on 13. So that was in 2010 when she was born. So it was the same thing.
Okay. And what was your reaction, first reaction when you found out?
The first time I was told or found out, it was, I was pretty excited. I was pretty excited. Again, it didn't really hit me till it was about a week before the due date that I was actually going to be a dad. And I saw these little baby clothes hanging, ready to be, that were washed and ready to be put on Kira before she was born, about a week before. And I remember feeling that moment going, oh my God, it's actually going to fit a little person inside those clothes in, God knows how many days, so that's the moment I really felt it hit me as far as like actually going to be a parent. But finding out with the test and then the ultrasound, that honestly didn't faze me as much as actually seeing those little clothes hanging on the hanger. So yeah, and it was a week before. So
What was her birth like for you?
Let's see. It was exciting, and at the same time, a little bit stressful. I was actually worried more about the mother and the child at the same time. I honestly, for me, it was surreal. I guess it was the best way of expressing how I felt. It was surreal. I was, trying to be as supportive as I could, but I was literally powerless to do anything. Realistically, I was powerless, and that was kind of exciting, but also very scary because I was not able to contribute in any significant way that I knew at the time. I was told later on that it was helpful, but I think it was just, kind of patting me on the back.
Oh yeah, there's nothing helpful about it.
Yeah. From my side, the mother's just, I think you're just trying to spare my feelings. So yeah, but that's how I felt. It's pretty exciting, but also pretty powerless in a certain way.
As a physician, did you have to attend births?
Oh, especially, yeah. Actually, I delivered a couple of babies as a medical student. So yeah.
How is that now looking back of how you did as a supportive doctor versus a supportive husband?
Yeah. Was it actually helpful to have the medical knowledge or not?
Actually, I think it was very helpful because I had it wasn't completely a subjective experience, meaning I had seen enough birthing birthing experiences, like from good to hard, the difficult. And so in one way it was very, how can I say, objective is all I can say, but it was also my child being born. So it was, I would go back and forth, sometimes I would think about the worst that could happen, but also like the elation of once the child was born, and I was looking forward to holding the child. for the first time. So yeah, it was
Could
very,
you-
very mixed.
Did you experience like the conscious bonding part of having her? Like holding her and feeling that connection form?
I'm trying to think. I remember holding Kira and Cameron. It was the same. It was relatively similar in the experience, but holding Kira specifically as the firstborn, I remember holding that child and thinking my life was completely different. Like it was not just about me anymore. It was I knew there was this whole world opening up to me, of parenthood that I could only imagine, what it was, like, what kind of adventure would be like. But I just felt the solemn responsibility, the privilege of being a dad for my 2 girls at that moment. So in that way, yeah, I felt it when she would put her hand around my pinky, and you could feel her squeeze on it for the first time. I remember that feeling as being, oh my gosh, this is something so fragile and so precious, and yet, like they're completely dependent on people to take care of her, specifically the parents. So yeah.
What's a favorite memory you have with each of them?
So for Kira, I remember the first time she actually stood up in the playpen. She was supposed to sleep, and I remember kind of trying to peek in the door, and I remember her standing up and looking at me. And that was the first time she actually was able to pull herself up and hold her. And then she was looking at me like, get me up, let's go play. And I remember that specifically. So that's one of my fondest, earliest memories of Kira. And then with Cameron, I remember her trying to prop herself up on all fours to start getting the strength to crawl. And she was doing that in the diaper changing table. And she would just kind of rock back and forth like a little hobby horse, just trying to do that. I just remember her struggling. Like I remember her almost as if she was surprised that she was able to actually do that. And she was moving in a completely different way that she was normally used to doing, that and rolling over. I remember that too. So those are some of the earliest, fondest memories of them as babies. Yeah.
When I'm working with guys, I usually have them define what it means to be a good father, a good husband, a good man in this world. What are some of the important things that you wanted to impart upon your daughters throughout their childhood? What are the important salient things, that were important for you to be able to teach them?
So for me specifically, I wanted them to feel that they were intelligent enough and strong enough to pretty much do anything they wanted. I've tried to do that with them on every occasion I've had the opportunity to. And I love teaching them things and then letting them understand that they have to take in all the information, but always make the decision ultimately on their own of whether that's good or bad. They'll feel it or not. And my method of doing things is just one way to consider, and I try to give them the reasons on how to do it. But it's always basically, trying to challenge and assess and then make their own decisions on it. That's the only thing I can give them really is the self-confidence or the empowerment to kind of really believe in themselves, and they're doing a great job of it so far. So yeah.
What would be some of the biggest challenges that you faced in being a dad?
Well, I mean, since I am a divorcee, I think the biggest challenge is the quality of time over the quantity of time with them. And I've thought about this a lot. I had to go through a lot of guilt on my own in that process. But I think more so now, I realize that the situation is I only have so much amount of time with them before that window closes, where I can really impart upon them positive experiences, strength, that teach them. And so to me now, my time with them, I really, really try not to take my time with them for granted because it's such a limited amount of time that I actually get with them. And so I really try to make it as impactful as possible and in a positive way as possible. But it takes a lot of patience too on their mind, because, you know, as teenagers now, you can see them really becoming their own persons and having their own opinions. And I like the challenge. I like the discussions now, you know, whereas before I you know, it was more of a very paternalistic kind of relationship, where now it's more of a, you know, they're starting to think for themselves. And now I can actually express myself in deeper ways of, you know, considering this versus this, the values I see, and they're actually understanding it more so as we move forward. So that's the challenge is getting the quality of time over quantity of time, and being more deliberate in what I plan with them when we're together versus just kind of, you know, just taking it spontaneously, which is not bad all the time, but it does make me think, you know.
If you could go back and talk to yourself at the point you found out that you were going to become a dad, and today, what would you say to yourself back then?
I think being more patient and being more, I guess, caring, loving, just that in that respect, I guess, just being more caring and loving when those moments that I had with them when they were younger. I think I did a good job overall, but, you know, you can always do better. And just showing them more love and affection, because, you know, I'm a dad, they're my daughters, and I love cuddling with them, even though that's not, you know, they're bigger now, so I don't get as much with that. But when they were younger, that was my thing with them, you know. So,
What advice would you give to new dads that have just got their first kid, and anything that you would impart upon them?
I would say, it sounds very cliche, but basically don't take things for granted. You know, cherish every moment with them, because before you know it, it's gone. You know, before you know it, you're not the center of their life. They have friends, they have other interests outside of the family as they get older, which is a good thing. They get to grow, but also it, you know, hurts a little bit. It hurts a little bit when you're not, you know, the center of attention anymore, but that's just the way life is. So yeah, cherish every moment, take videos, take pictures with the kids, and make it a priority to make fun, loving memories. Because, you know, life is good and bad, and you take the ups and the downs, but hopefully if you do it right, there's more good than bad, and more fun memories and loving memories than not. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I heard it from someone, I don't remember where, but they said you only have about 12 Christmases, right? Or you only have 12 Easter bunnies, right? That's like the only amount of time that you have before they grow up and, you know, they kind of grow
Become
out
part
of
of
it,
the world. Yeah.
right? And when you look at it from that perspective, it's a very short amount of time.
yeah, I heard something similar in the same vein, where it's you pretty much spent 95% of their time with you by the time they're 18 years old. After that, it's the rest of their lives. It's near zero. Far less. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but, you know, that's why you got to make the most of it when they're still young.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Calvin, for being on our special episode for Father's
Great.
Day.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and I wish everyone the very best Father's Days and more future ones to come.
Yes. Okay. Hey, Rob, thanks for being on the podcast.
Absolutely, Ray. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So, you know, we did an episode about mothers on Mother's Day. And so we thought that, you know, Father's Day would be, you know, a good opportunity for us to bring on a couple dads to talk a little bit about being a dad. You know, so I was wondering if you could just kind of start with, you know, what was it like finding out when you were going to be a dad for the first time?
Well, that's a loaded question for me. Well, we tried to have children for 2 years unsuccessfully, doing all the fertility treatments and Eventually we did IVF. And so once we found out we were pregnant, or Hillary, my wife, was pregnant, it was a sense of relief almost. You know, it wasn't surprise. I mean, it was surprise, but it was like a sense of relief surprise after struggling and seeing my wife go through all those emotions and ups and downs. And, you know, for me, I knew that we would figure it out if we didn't have children, but I did want it, but I didn't know how much I needed it until it happened. You know, like any parent, I think, you look back to your life before children, your life after children, and everything changes. Everything, just the way you look at life, the way you look at yourself, the way you look at other people, it changes everything. At least it did for me, I guess. I can't say it does for everybody, but most parents I think I talk to have this, you know, sense, and I don't know, maybe the struggle is where I build some of that from and have some of that from. Like we tried really hard. We put a lot of money into it. Time, energy, emotion. And then once there were some fruits to that labor, we were overwhelmed. But also to add to it, we found out we were having twins. We only wanted 2 children to begin with at most. So we got 2 for 1. And that it was a little overwhelming too, from trying to have 1 to going to 2, and to prepare for 2. But now I look back, like at the beginning, it was really difficult because of that dynamic, but it actually is working for us later in life because they have a built-in playmate, and they're getting a little socialized with each other. They're the same age. They have some of the same friends. They do some of the same things, but they're also starting to diverge and become their own people too.
Did you find out you were having twins right away, or was that a surprise later?
Well, in the IVF process, they ask you how many embryos you want to implant. They're fertilized embryos. They implant them. But let me tell you, after 2 years of trying and doing all the things that get pregnant, you're pretty jaded by the time you get to this point. Doctors are like, we're like, what do you guys recommend? Like, and we only had 3. So we're like, well, let's go with the greater odds to start. So let's do 2.
Oh, wow.
We never thought that 2 would take. It just wasn't like, you know, we never thought the odds were in our favor this whole time. And then they tell us that they're twins. We're like, oh my God, they both took. Oh, what a blessing, but also, oh crap.
What was that like, you know, on their birthday?
Well, which one?
So when you know, when they were born, what was that experience
on
like
the
for
actual
you?
state, that birthday? All right, so that was actually a crazy day because my wife had preeclampsia, and she was very, very bloated. You know, had like the Flintstone feet, like couldn't get out of a rocking chair. I mean, we were at the end of the second trimester at this point, and she was already on the struggle bus. Like she couldn't get up on her own. I had to help her up, and so she was having some bleeding happen, and so we took her to the hospital, and there was a lot. And you know, I stayed there overnight with her the first night in the hospital. They had all the heart rate monitors on her belly to make sure that everything was okay, and they were on alarms, so if anything went out of whack, the nurses rushed in. So we went through the night, terrible night of sleep, of course. And, you know, at like 5 a.m, they come in, they're like, yeah, we think she's good. She's stable. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go home and change and go to work, because we didn't think anything of it. So I get home, I am brushing my teeth and doing my hair real quick. And I get the call, Rob, I'm in labor. Get here now. Like I'm in the OR like now. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I was just there. They said it was okay. So I've never driven that crazy before. I was driving. I'm like, I'm getting there as fast as I can. I don't care if I drive on the shoulder or whatever. There was no reasoning. It was like straight fight or flight, amygdala firing. I got to get there. Go. So I get there. I'm running in. I scrub in. They're like, Dad's here. We can go. All right. So I get in there and then we go. And it was emergency C-section, and
Wow.
they had to get him out. Like, and if I didn't show up there within a few minutes, they were going to cut him out anyways, because they needed to come out. So then I'm in the OR. My wife is screaming, and the anesthesiologist like, "Can you feel anything?" She's like, "No." And then they start taking her. I'm like, They're like, "Are you sure you can't feel anything?" She's like, "It's fine." It didn't sound like she couldn't feel anything. And I can't see anything because I'm behind a drape, so all I have is her head,
Right.
and the anesthesiologist right next to me. And so it was a wild moment to be in there. And I always thought there would just be like a doctor and a nurse. No, it was like probably 5 nurses and doctor and the anesthesiologist behind the curtain. I mean, there were so many people in there, I couldn't believe it. And then one came out, and what seemed like 10 minutes, which is really probably only about a minute, the other one came out. And that was when everything changed. It was wild. And then the first 24 hours was another roller coaster, because Emerson had some heart issues starting out. So they both went in the NICU straight away, because they were 6 weeks early. They were very early. Their due date was Christmas Eve, and they were born on October 7th. So
Oh, wow.
that
Okay.
gives you an idea. They were just over 2 pounds each.
Yeah.
So they fit in the palm of my hand.
Wow.
Their whole entire finger wrapped around my pinky nail, or their whole entire hand wrapped around my pinky nail. That's how small they were. They fit in dolls' clothes. Like, we literally for Halloween bought them dolls' clothes and they wore them. That's how small they were. Literally a doll. And but yeah, that first 24 hours was rough, because even the Emerson had to have an emergency heart procedure. And the first time that we got to go down and see her after the birth, it was in the middle of the night, and the NICU was pitch black, and there were probably 6 doctors swarmed around our daughter, screaming and yelling, "I need this, I need that." Like, it was scary. And that was the first time we were going down to see him. And when the one doctor came out, and I could hear the nervousness in his voice, like talking to us. And that made us very nervous, of course, as it would anyone. But he did a good job of keeping it together, and we got to talk to him afterwards, and he sounded like a totally different person. But I knew that first 24 hours was terrifying from a parent's perspective, because we could have lost one of our children, and one would be too many, obviously. Luckily, she pulled through, though, so that was great. But then you got 2 months in the NICU, and we lived a good 40 minutes from that NICU in Park Ridge, going to Wakanda. Luckily, my office that I work at is in Riverwoods, Deerfield, so just down the road. So I was able to go there at lunch and check in. But yeah, mad respect for all the NICU nurses and doctors, and so much appreciation for them. And yeah, they really care, and their work matters greatly, deeply.
So that initial sense of relief was a little presumptuous of you, right? Because starting out as with fatherhood, it was just all chaos, and I imagine a lot of mixed emotions that you're going through, ups and downs, and worry and fear.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack here, right? But yeah, so from that emotional standpoint and what I was feeling and going through, about 2 months before they were born, I actually quit drinking, because I was spiraling out of control personally. So I'm there trying to figure out my own issues and demons, dealing with not drinking alcohol. And then these 2 children come in. Thank God I did quit. And my rock bottom was very high. But thankfully I did quit, because I don't know how I would have handled this whole situation if I had alcohol, because that crutch would have been leaned on heavily. And yeah, but I also leaned into food. We were eating tons of fast food, and you're you're just in survival mode. You're doing whatever you need to do, and people did make us meals and stuff. It was very kind of them, but yeah, ultimately you're living on fast food and not treating yourself too well. But I was just white knuckling at that point, between work, the kids, and managing things as a unit together with my wife, and yeah, battling my own stuff. But those children, I always say those children saved my life. My marriage, it got me to get my act together in more ways than one. So, and it was a waterfall effect.
Yeah. Talk about a sense of powerlessness, right? I mean, that's the ultimate powerlessness, just kind of standing and watching your kids, and hoping for the best, and then also kind of gripping onto this new change in your life. That had to be quite a transformational period for you at that time.
Yeah, it was 100% transformational, and yeah, I didn't feel it in the moment, but like most people that go through things like this, it's at the beginning, it's a lot of big change. And then once you get used to that, it just becomes part of your life, and that's just what you do. It's like, I don't do ballet. I don't drink alcohol. Right. So that it's just not something I do, but also like working out became part of my life. Yeah, eating better quality foods most of the time, but also learning to find balance with that too, because what a lot of people do is you go from one end of the spectrum to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. So that was a learning experience too, and that's all this is. It's just an evolution, and that's all I try to be. I'm me against me, and just trying to help my kids be better people and be better for them, and show them vulnerability, that I make mistakes, that I'm human and they can be too, and they can come to me with their issues and problems. And again, it doesn't mean I'm perfect. I'm far from it, but those little humans are a really big reflection in the mirror of yourself, and you really see a lot of your own BS that and they will call you out. They get older too, like, Daddy, get off your phone. Like like, yeah, okay, I need that reminder. I hear you. Well, let me put my phone away. And I'm aware of it, and I get distracted by it. So, it's those little things. And I don't know. I like to be there, and I know since we have twins and we decided that's all we wanted and all we were going to do with, I know this is it. And so I'm living in each moment, each age. And it doesn't mean I'm perfect with it, but I do have a lot of intention around focusing on moments and capturing them and soaking them in, and knowing that they're fleeting, and going with the ups and downs of each stage, and just going with the flow, and learning and growing with them. Yeah.
That is awesome. What has been your most memorable moments with your daughters?
It's funny. I had one. There's a very recent one. So, yeah, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? 2 days ago, I let my daughters do my makeup, and I should say do makeup on me, and paint my nails, paint my toes, and it was just random and genuine. They were like looking at my fingers, like, "Oh, we should paint your nails." I'm like, "Okay, go ahead." Like, what? And there's and the giggling and laughter and fun and just rolling with it. And they're like, "Daddy, what are we gonna do next?" And blah blah. I'm like, "Oh, my daddy's crazy," and blah blah. And they just had a great time, and I'll always remember that. Just the giggling, the noise, the laughter, the facial expressions, it's just pure joy, and sharing that with them. There's so many things I'm a big experiences person. So, going to museums and experiencing art and culture and exposing them to new things. I find a lot of value in that, just educationally and personally. And so going downtown Chicago and it's just experiencing cultures, taking them to Blues Fest or to the Art Institute or to the Museum of Science and Industry. Those experiences, for even things like amusement parks, going to Six Flags Great America, and doing those sorts of things with them and seeing joy, walking them through the different fears or questions, and just making sure that they're inquisitive and asking things, and fostering that for them. And for whatever reason, I really connect with that. And yeah,
That's awesome. And Rob, what advice would you give new fathers today?
To be a father, to be there for that person. Because there's a lot of dads out there, and I think it's getting better. There's kind of this movement where the masculinity is in owning the responsibility of being a parent and living in that. Especially, I don't know, especially as a girl dad. Maybe I feel like I need to prove something, and from a masculinity standpoint. But I just own it, right? But for other fathers, I would say it's showing up. Like you're a father by birthright, but it doesn't mean you're a good father. It doesn't mean you're actually present. It doesn't mean that you care. And there's always time, no matter what age you're at, there's always time to turn it around. So show up, be present, and you're going to make mistakes. And you should have a sense of fear and excitement at birth. I think that's a healthy balance. You shouldn't just be one or the other. I don't think that's realistic. And there's a bond there with this child. So it's one of those things that's hard to explain to someone that doesn't have a child.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see that child that's of you, your DNA, from you, cut from your cloth, and you look at that blob of flesh that's crying and needs food, and you got to take care of them. There's this burning fire of love instantly inside of you. At least that's what I felt, at least. And most other fathers are like, oh yeah, after the birth, they're like, wow, I know exactly what you're talking about now. And you're right. I couldn't have understood that before. And when you do that and see that, own it. Like you're bringing someone in the world, someone you need to show the way to make society better, your family better, your legacy better, and to do things differently than maybe your parents did too. And not in a bad way, not like they did anything wrong, but there's an understanding. There's also a certain appreciation for your parents once you become a parent yourself that you didn't have before, where you're like, wow, I see all of the sacrifices they made. This is hard. I see all the things they did. I see maybe the things I saw in a negative light, I don't see the same way. So there's a lot to unpack there as a child looking at your parents when you're a parent and become a parent.
That's fantastic. Rob, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. This actually, I think it's very inspirational, really, and it sounds like your kids have been an inspiration for you in your life as well.
Absolutely. Forever changed me for the good.
And now we're going to share something really special with all of you. This is a phone call that I had with my dad
on his 85th
birthday. So this is, his Father's Day and also 85th birthday phone call. We actually sent him something, had it delivered, and he's quite a character. So you guys hope you enjoy this.
Hope you enjoy it.
I received that's a coffee cake with my coffee, and then they said there, let me see. Oh, ice cream, my God! And then bourbon whiskey, Daddy. Oh my God! Thank you very much. Yeah. I signed it, and then they checked the.
Oh, ice cream and chocolate. I cannot eat it.
Why not?
It's not too sweet.
It is. Well, thank you very much. Really, I'm going. I told the girl, I'm going to get drunk tonight. Well, okay. I might share with Ro if he's around. It's, I don't know. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much for the gift. Okay.
Okay.
Happy
So,
birthday. Happy Father's Day.
Let's see now you.
What is your advice for dads on Father's Day?
My advice is that be
Hold the thing.
be tolerant and empathetic. You see, empathetic, then they will be understanding. You see, when I came to U.S., I'm confessing. When I came to U.S., I was slow in acculturation. That means adjusting to the culture of U.S. I didn't understand boyfriend, girlfriend. What is that? In fact, when I was intern, one American intern told me, it's okay, ask the girl out or something like that. So, and then one time, and I was very rigid, and
Hold the bourbon and look at
I was
look at it.
I was very rigid,
Look.
and
Yeah. Okay.
and then I was ignorant. I did not pick up the signal from the girls. I was in emergency room one time, and there was American nurse who was beautiful, and she came and we were talking. She came. She said, I'll be off this weekend. Oh my God. I didn't pick it up. I didn't pick up that she's saying it.
Yeah. So you could have dated her.
Yeah, I did not do it.
Look here.
As I said, I was slow picking up the signal.
So
And I was very slow.
you regret?
I'm just confessing, okay? Don't say regret or what. I'm confessing.
Why it doesn't.
So that's the story. I had classmate that from Pakistan. There was one Pakistan intern resident was so fast adjusting to the culture, Americanized. I was slow in Americanizing, accepting. Anyway, and that reflected on my treatment of you, Ramin. Okay, so I confess, but that's past, and I was. Anyway, so that's okay. That's a piece of confession. Okay, now what you want now? What do you want?
You're supposed to give your advice for fathers.
My father, myself, I said tolerance. Everybody has shortcomings. Tolerance for each other's shortcoming, and empathize with the other person, and don't criticize.
Is that as a father or a spouse?
Huh?
Is that as a father or a spouse?
As a father, as a spouse also.
Yeah, but you do.
As father, when you empathize with the kids, then you understand what's going on, what crisis they are going through, especially in high school. When they enter in high school, the pressure, hormonal pressure, pressure from peers, everybody, there's a lot of pressure. But you see, okay. That's it, okay? That's okay. So what else? That was my advice. Tolerance, empathetic. Okay? Very good, very good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Happy birthday and happy Father's Day.
Thank you, and happy Father's Day. Your father, just
Yeah.
And we want to thank you for joining us today on our special episode for Father's Day. We want to thank you for joining us on Couple Synergy. Our passion is in helping couples and people have happy and healthy relationships. And this podcast gives us a fun way of bringing our knowledge and expertise to you, our listeners.
Sharing stories is a way that human beings have been bonding, healing, and growing since the beginning of time. And we hope that by these guys sharing their stories, it's enriched their lives and the lives of our listeners.
For all of you listening, please let us know how you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions, comments, or topic suggestions, please email us at contact@couplesynergy.com. For more information about Couple Synergy and our programs such as Relationship 101, the home study course, the Couples Relationship Enhancement Weekend, and our premier coaching program called Couple to Couple, look us up online at couplesynergy.com.
And if you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please download it and share it. And thank you for listening.
Until next time, synergize your life and synergize your love.
You have been listening to Couple Synergy with Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. Couple Synergy was recorded, edited, and produced by Dr. Ray and Jean Ketkodian. Voiceover and music entitled Breathe and Let Go was recorded and composed by Gina Gonzalez.